Hi there, it's Cheryl from Garden in the Burrow, and welcome to part 3 of the garden transformation video series that I've been doing on the back gardens. I keep forgetting to say that if you like any of these videos, to please hit like and subscribe because it will help my channel grow. But I hope that you've stayed with me through all 3 parts of this, and this is the very last one. So we're all done, and I'm pretty pleased. I'm pretty happy. So we're gonna go through in the next bit of footage from here. It's gonna take you to a video I took at twilight. We replaced the pathway lights in here and added, we had 2 solar lanterns for the arbor, but we couldn't put the second one up until the birds were done nesting in the house that was on there. So now both of those solar lanterns are up. And so I came out here at dusk and I took some video footage. Boy, it's really, really pretty out here at night. So that's the beginning. It's just a few minutes of looking around in here at twilight. And then I'll go into an explanation of the final plants that got put in here and what is going to happen going forward in the next year when those plants start to fill in and grow. So from a cost perspective, I was trying to do this. We've done a lot of garden projects this year. So I was trying to do this as cost effectively as possible. So I ended up purchasing 3 landscape roses, 2 little quickfire shrubs, and 4 microbiota, which is Russian cypress shrubs. So those are the only plants that I bought. Everything else in here was either recycled back in from the original garden or transplanted or divided from plants I already had. So either brought in from other areas of the garden or divisions off plants that I had. So all of the cost, if you will, was my labor, I guess, most of it. And we painted some things, and that paint was paint that I had mixed for, it matches our fence color. So I had mixed it for using to paint some trellises on the other side of the garden. So that didn't cost anything. The arbor we already had, it just needed painting. The birdhouse we already had, it just needed painting. So most of the stuff, the other arbor just needed painting. And we did purchase that bench on Amazon in the springtime. And I think that was like $100. So we bought a bench and for 9 plants and ended up doing this garden just for that cost, which was relatively for a garden this size. So this garden is probably about 50 feet from where it begins over here to the part that I worked on to that way is about 50 feet. And at its deepest, it's about 30 feet. So 150 square feet of gardening, only purchasing that few plants and using the rest of the stuff, mostly divisions from the garden. That's a pretty budget friendly garden reno. So that makes me pretty happy too. Oh, I should say we did replace the solar lights, and that was a little cost, although I ended up getting them on such a deal on Amazon. I'll link them. I love them because they're glass and not plastic. So we had ones in here, just cheapish solar lights, but it was a PVC type of plastic, or a hard plastic, I should say, not PVC, on the inside, and they clouded up pretty quickly. So these actually have glass in them, and they weren't expensive at all. So that was another cost, but a minimal one. So anyway, that was the sort of, I guess, budget for this garden, and the rest of it was all just work, dividing, moving things, taking things out, chipping all the wood chips for the pathways, and all the things that we did. So there's going to be that twilight video, and then a little recap of just the things that we did, and then an in-depth sort of look at the plants that ended up going in. And you know, we'll revisit this garden often in future videos as things start to fill out and bloom, and it really comes into its own, which I think is just going to be spectacular. So thanks for watching, and stick around to see the garden at twilight. So we are pretty much finished out here, and I am just, I don't know, even the words to describe how happy I am to have this garden back as what feels like a real garden again. It really just needed this reno so bad. So what you're looking at here is one of 3 landscape roses. This is a Proven Winners direct plant that I just purchased 3 of them. And I'm laughing that I thought they were called Ice Baby. So even when I was planting them, I was like, couldn't get the Vanilla Ice Baby song out of my head, but they're actually called Ice Bay. So they have white flowers and they'll get to be about 1.5 by 3 feet. Right now they're being protected in these are actually pot toppers that go on the top of planters. And I have a number of them on all different pots in my yard, but I'm using it here in tandem with bird netting to serve as a makeshift cloche for the roses through the winter. I might actually leave them, but take the bird netting off because I love the look. Love it. But rabbits here will eat anything new. They'll try it. Even if they don't like it, they'll eat it. If it's fresh green growth, and these are obviously shooting out all sorts of new growth, beautiful, healthy plants from Proven Winners Direct. So I wanted to protect them as best I could so we can get them through the winter, and then we'll see what happens in the spring. So I also added some divisions from this sedum called Firecracker, which I absolutely can't get enough of, the color of it. And there's a little blue spruce sedum in there too. And I left all my Veronica, which I knew I was going to because I love this plant. It looks like a ground cover until it's blooming. And then it has these maybe 18-inch spikes of pink fluffy flowers. I added a lot of ajuga to serve as living mulch. You can see quite a bit of it in through here. And I used, I think, 4 different ajugas. And there's that daylily. I showed a picture of what that's going to look like when it blooms. And in there is one of 4 Russian cypress. And I'm going to show you another one when I go up there. But that plant, I don't know, a little disappointed. I just want, let's look at the new growth on this rose already. So there's more ajuga, more of that sedum. Here's a second variety of ajuga. Again, serve as living mulch. And then some of that dark-leaved penstemon, which I've added quite a bit of. Beautiful white flowers in the early part of the summer. And it's going to help with ground control, erosion control in here right now. And there's the second rose. More of that penstemon. So up in here, I made a little pathway starting here to go into the woodland garden. This is another one of my favorite things. We'll go in there later. We'll do that as soon as I finish up some stuff I'm working on in there. So I did transplant some hostas here. Boy, they look sad. But that's okay because we know next year they're going to look great. And we're not going to worry about that right now. But what I did over in here, because this is a real erosion spot, so I added in some spirea divisions I took from other spireas. This one flowers white, and I think the rest of them are pink, but I just need them to hold the ground in for me temporarily. I have one more Russian cypress to go in the ground right here. I haven't planted it yet, but here's another one of them, and I want to show you. I ordered these not from Proven Winners Direct. Look how tiny these plants came. Like, I mean, they're maybe 6 inches tall. So that's my one disappointment. I can't find this plant locally, so I had to order it online. And unlike the roses, they just came in these tiny, tiny little pots, 4-inch pots. So I hope they fill out. But anyway, there's a second one over there. And I had to leave a lot of the penstemon under here to keep the ground from going downhill until those plants fill out, whenever that may be. But anyway, I added some sub and substance hosta here. Again, I know they look terrible, but they will fill out quickly. And they're a very tall hosta sub and substance. If they're getting enough sun, they'll get to be quite substantial. So, all right, let's just look quickly. You can see here the holly is starting to color up. So pretty soon we're going to have those bright orange berries. And actually now it will be able to fill out a little bit more this way since that weed tree is gone that was here. So that's plants I left, Baptisia and Amsonia. Here's a little blue stem that I transplanted, and I really am crossing my fingers that the little blue stems all survive, because most grasses, warm season grasses, don't like to be transplanted this late in the season, but you know, we're going to cross our fingers. All right, and if we come back out the pathway, I included some pictures of what this arbor had looked like before with the lattice. And one thing that you don't appreciate, I guess, is that what is right behind there was that understory forsythia. So that was hidden by the lattice. So now you have this wall of green in growing season, but we're also going to be able to see the flowers of this since we limbed up a lot of the trees in that back and it's getting a ton of sun. So now we're going to be able to see the flowers, which we really never have enjoyed. Not that you can enjoy forsythia all that much, but boy, it's really a harbinger of spring and summer, isn't it? When you see it come into bloom. And that shrub is huge, and it got so much healthier and bigger this year because of the amount of sunlight it's getting. So we'll be able to see that, which was sort of a bonus. As we come out into this garden, we have our vanilla strawberry hydrangea, another one of the transplanted little blue stems, this little weigela that had been dwarfed and completely smothered by daylilies. So I added a lot of, again, little ajuga starts in here. I transplanted some veronica to this side of the path, here and here. So we'll have that repeated. More little blue stem that I transplanted right there. And in this bed as well is some salvias and some peony that have been cut down. So their roots are under there in this area that's covered. So you got to just use your imagination, but I think it's going to be pretty great. So now this 9 bark, which if you remember, was in between that juniper and that boxwood right there. And it was just growing up in between them and moved now. It's going to have the opportunity to fill out and become a real grown shrub. So, and it's taken to transplanting so well. So I think it will do very well over the winter. And in this space here, I did leave one of the daylilies. Not sure if it's going to stay, but for now it's there. But now this juniper is not being blocked by anything, and it actually has the opportunity to come out and fill out this space. So does that boxwood. This is an untrimmed boxwood. I don't ever prune this boxwood. And hopefully it will be able to I am going to do a little bit of pruning on this white pine back here. These serve, again, as sort of understory to the white pine that shield us from our neighbor in back. So all in all, pretty happy with what I chose to plant in here. I did mention I was going to give this some fertilizer and new compost, this variegated honeysuckle down here, and I did. And already it looks happier. So maybe next year we'll get that to climb the arbor. I'm going to insert a picture of what that looks like because I grow that in a couple of places and it's gorgeous. Oh, over here, this is a hardy chrysanthemum that's going to bloom pink. It's Sheffield pink, just a very common one, but this is going to bloom soon. And let's see, let's go up. Well, we can quickly look down this path. So this path, we widened and limbed up the junipers. So it gave us a much more open. It's hard if you didn't try and walk down this path before to realize what a difference this improvement has made, because now there's plenty of space to walk down here without brushing against anything. It just feels more open and far less claustrophobic. There's the rose arbor. So I kind of suspected this sort of thing was going to happen with the rabbits, the leaf eating, and it has a little bit. But I'm going to put, I'm actually going to add more hosta and figure if I have a lot, it will minimize, if there is rabbit damage, it will minimize it because there'll just be more. So I have another whole pot of hosta I'm going to divide and fill in there. This plant has blown me away, this ajuga, and how fast it's growing. So when I bought it, it was from Plant Delights Nursery, and it was literally one little start like that in a 4-inch pot, and I put it in a big pot with potting soil, and it filled it out immediately. So I took about 10 divisions from it for the pool area gardens I was working on, and then all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 divisions came from that as well. And this one is already doubled in size since I put it in the ground. And the reason I chose it as the living mulch for this area was because of this variegated Nanalutea weigela. And can you just see and appreciate how beautiful that's going to look when this is completely the ground cover, that bright, 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 bright chartreusey color, and repeat it again up here. And this plant has really, really benefited from what's been going on too, because it's gotten all new compost, so it is no longer suffering like it was, and it's got these beautiful new leaves that are coming out. So this is what was going on over the summer with this plant. Crispy leaves. Look at this one. How beautiful. So these are all happy things. More ajuga in here. That will form the living mulch underneath these weigelas, which are Midnight Sun, and they're just starting to color up. They'll be like a purpley color. And they have to stay in their cages until springtime. And these quick fire hydrangeas that I got also from Proven Winners Direct, again, can't say enough about the plants that they sent, how healthy they were. This was the other rose. Look at the new growth that's happened just since I put this in the ground. So I'm going to put a picture here. I was going to take a video the day I was planting, but I was in such a hurry I didn't. So all of these roses, they're growing there right now underneath these pot toppers and the bird netting to protect them. But what's protecting them under the ground are actually these little metal, they're like little metal pouches, fabric pouches that just fit right over the root ball. So I know some people use waste baskets from Dollar Tree, but these are a little bit more expensive, but they're just like a metal, I guess, pouch. And you fit it around the base and the roots can grow through it, but it protects the real root ball of the plant so that, and you can fold it right up over the top of the plant. Like you put the root ball in it and there's still enough room for it to kind of come over the top of the soil too. And so it protects them from the voles quite well. And I use them out. We have an area out in our front garden near our front porch that the mice are just vicious during the winter. And we use them there. And we also used them in the plantings that went in this rock wall to protect the heuchera crowns and the Hecanocloa grass, which got really, really damaged by the rabbits. And it had a tough time coming back, but I think it's going to be okay in the long run. I hope. The other thing the rabbits just won't leave alone are these painted ferns. And anytime I take these baskets off, they just eat these right to the ground. So I might have to move these just because they'll never be able to live outside of the basket back here because of the rabbit pressure. Look, the Hakonokloa, the Japanese forest grass. By springtime, next spring, especially if I cover them in the spring, there you can just see the hint of the metal basket on the surface of the soil right there that they're planted in to protect their roots. Here's another little bit of it right here. So that's to keep the voles from being able to dig down in there and eat their roots. That's actually protecting or covering what was a vole hole in there until they find a new house. So that's what's under there. And then of course we have the plantings that I've shown, the heuchera, and then there's the Solomon seal. And this sedum is doing beautiful. And it's got its little morning glory companion right now into another limelight. That's a weigela right there, growing in pretty considerable shade. It doesn't flower all that great, but it really looks nice there. And there is a clematis planted in this arbor. It's Odoriba. It was the one that was growing on the arbor that I said I was gonna rescue. So it's in here. It hasn't come up from the ground yet. It's being protected again from rabbits in there, but it's got a new home. Hopefully it will be happy. To the side, we have our limelight. And what you don't see in this limelight is there's another clematis called Violet Elizabeth that blooms really early in the season and actually grows sort of up the back of the shrub, and where the flowers show are about right there. So it comes right up to the top of this shrub and blooms in the early springtime. We have our maple up there, but that's where the clematis usually blooms flowers, you can see in the springtime. So we have, I think, a great assortment of plants. There's another Summon Substance. Again, it's really hard to transplant hosta this time of year, but by next year that's going to look amazing. Again, you can see the orange berries starting to color up on these hollies, and when they get to be their brightest color, right now they have quite a tinge of green to them, but when they get to be their brightest color, they'll be visible just everywhere, from in the yard and in the house. They're like a beacon. There's another one of those tiny little Russian cypresses. So there's 4 of them in here that, you know, really need to get growing. So I do have some open ground in here now. I'm going to plant under this birdhouse. I already got seeds for a Kiss Me Over the Garden Gate, which is an annual, and I'm going to throw the seeds out actually in November and let them stratify out here over the winter so that hopefully they'll sprout and start growing up and around this birdhouse in the springtime. And I'll put in a picture of what that plant looks like. Our cherry tree. So all in all, I really am happy. So I guess the one chore I'm going to do out here today is try and tie in that trumpet vine so it's behind the post and you can't see it. And then I've already moved on to getting some work done out in the back, and I have some exciting things planned for out there. As soon as we are getting them done, I'll start taking some pictures and video. But now we're just gonna have to wait till all these plants fill in and fill out. But at nighttime, my goodness, is it beautiful back in here. And I love the roses. I know I'm gonna love them when they're blooming, but right now I like them in the cloches. I love the new landscape lights. Everything about this project is making me happy. So that's what we look like when we're done. And I'll back up so you can see it from a distance. I did mention this cobalt birdhouse here. So I'm gonna pan slowly around so you can see the garden This is we go to that arbor, and then we go down a path that has these arbors that four of 6 of them are doing wonderful. And if you can see in the distance there, this pathway ends in that same birdhouse. So you see it from that little bit of cobalt blue from one end of this pathway to the next.